I'm definitely Marcus, and Nick isn't here because he's trying to save the world. But we are Working Class Nerds. We're the podcast that gives you no information about your favorite information. Today is May 14th, 2020, and you can find this Nick Isn't Here Again podcast on Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher. You can find me on Twitter. I am at MarcusB84. Also, you can come see me every Sunday, Monday, and every other Thursday at twitch.tv/MarcusB814. This week's episode, I'm going to dive into a topic that clearly has two sides of the coin. I'm calling this the Two-Faced podcast because we're going to be talking about the infamous Nightmare Crystal. In SOTOR, there was a crystal that was created that you could make that would give you special powers and in Nightmare Raids. So we're going to dive into that. But joining us tonight, we have two guests. First is longtime friend of the podcast, many times on the show. He needs no interruption. He's a big-time Twitch streamer. He's the man, Kogass.
Yo, what's good, everybody? Hope you're all having a wonderful day.
And our first-time guest, which I've raided with this man a bunch of times. He raids with our friend of the show, Doc, every Thursday night, and Slayer from Evil Intentions. Glitch, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, I'm probably never going to get invited back after today, but thanks for the invite anyway.
You're totally coming back. So thanks for coming on the show. Glitch, let's start with you. What have you been up to this past week? In-game, out-of-game?
Well, end game, still doing prog on Nimna Hut. We finally got to a burn phase a few times with most people alive, so that's a plus. Out of game, I defend my dissertation in about a month and a half, so super stressful.
Wait. Did you say dissertation?
Yeah.
Are you going to be a doc?
I'm going to be one of those useless doctors where, when they ask, are there any doctors on the plane, I'm not going to raise my hand.
Wow. But you're still going to have the doc title.
Yeah.
Well, in my opinion, once you get that, you're a doc. Whether you're a medical doctor or you have your doctorate of engineering or whatever it could be.
Yeah, I can build you a bomb-ass bridge, but if you're having a heart attack, you should probably see someone else.
So when you talk about Nimna Hut, what are the differences between Nimna Hut and hard mode Nahat? Like, what are the, most Nightmare fights, the way I understand it, have a couple extra mechanics. What are the extra mechanics in Nimna Hut versus hard mode?
Man, I don't even know where to start. There's just a lot more stuff going on. There's a lot more damage going out. The DPS push is a lot harder. There's a new battery mechanic where when you reveal, you need to have a battery. If you don't have a battery, you can't reveal. So it just adds the extra layer of complexity. Then, everyone's just taking more damage.
Is there still that, I'm trying to think, where you have to, in the first, like, I call it like the first half A and B phase, where like you first fight him and you kite him around the room. Do you still have to like ping the tanks have to ping him back and forth?
Sort of. The idea, well, I mean, that's kind of where the DPS check is. There's a lot more crap on the ground that you can't see. And so you got to really push the boss. Like, he makes like one lap around, and then he should be pushed by then. And then you kind of go grab your batteries for the next set of reveals. There's droids that show up now that heal the couplings. The couplings aren't always on the same side. You got to push the couplings, or you fail the fight. After you push the couplings, there's like turret phase. The difference between hard mode there is there's extermination droids that spawn periodically that make a beeline towards the healers because healer aggro, and you either have to CC those or have the other tank kite them around. The DPS push for the turrets is a lot rougher because the droids just keep spawning until you push the turrets in, and then burn. There's kind of a raid wide slow that's pretty harsh. So it's just there's a lot more stuff going on.
Huh. That is definitely more than two things different in the fight. So I just cleared hard mode Nahat for the first time. So thanks. So that's why I was asking, because believe it or not, compared to the sisters, I thought Nahat was easier for a tank at least.
Yeah, Nahat is definitely very, very scripted once you kind of get a feel for how fast he's moving.
Right. Kogass, what have you been up to?
Oh man, been streaming in game, doing some solo ranked. In the real world, I'm just working on school, getting working on some classes.
Semester ends soon, right?
I have about 2 weeks left. Yeah,
So you have a week of class and then finals, or is it like are you in finals now?
it's like a week of class and then finals. So I'm just working on that, making sure my group projects are going well, and making sure my individual projects going well, and still writing about 2 or 3 papers a week per class.
Damn. See, I'm so glad I'm not in school because, I guess I go to school every day because I learn something new every day, but I don't know if I could do it again. Um, I go to my shop and cut wood and screw things together, I guess. I don't know if I could do the school thing again.
It's one of those things where you're out of school and or like in school, you're in school for all those hours and then you're done with school, you're out, you still have to study. But when you start working, the big difference is like once you're done with work, you don't have to do anything. You get to hang out and do your own thing most of the time.
Until there's kids involved.
Until well, I mean, that's doing your own thing, isn't it? With somebody else, maybe.
No. Yeah, we're doing our own thing as long as it's up to them. So, in my world, so the last time we spoke on the show, I don't know if I started streaming yet. Maybe I did. It went really well. I got my Twitch affiliate. It was 11 days, 7 streams, and I made my affiliate, which I kind of attribute some of that prog to the show, the Working Class Nerds, because a lot of people followed me on Twitch because of Working Class Nerds. So I think kind of it helped push me to those. Is it 50 followers you need? I think so. I think you
Yeah,
need 50 followers.
followers. 50,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So I think that helped me. I've been really enjoying it. I kind of took Kogass's advice when he told me just to, when you're tired and burnt, don't stream and, just stream and then figure out a schedule, but stick to that schedule. If it's 1 day a week, it's 1 day a week. If it's 2, if it's 3, whatever it is, the consistency is what it is. So since then, I'm going to be streaming every Sunday, Monday, and every other Thursday, obviously because of Working Class Nerds. If by some chance we do Working Class Nerds on Thursday, I'll probably do Friday, I would imagine. Or I may start streaming my Saturday night team because my Saturday night team, we're progging hard mode Gods from the Machine. We got through Nahut a couple weeks ago, but last week, some jerkface decided to get drunk and crashed into a telephone pole. He's an idiot and killed my internet for the night. So I missed raid 2 weeks ago, which was really shitty because if anybody, well, you both know Prague, like when you get to a boss and you're like learning the mechanics, I feel like when you don't raid 1 week, you almost take a step back, or this is my own personal feelings on that. And I felt like I was so ready for that Saturday night against Skyva. And then I missed a week. And then this week we went back and it felt like it was our first time back in against her, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely a regression when you don't have can't go back at the week after.
Yeah. So we went back. The Prague went. I'm okay. So both of you guys have cleared that fight, right?
Not
Yes.
recently, but yeah.
Okay. Well, either way, once you've cleared it, once I start talking about it, you'll understand. So in the first phase, there's that, I'm going to call him an immolation droid, but I know he's like some other kind of droid. So the tank has to jump in, take him. So there's been 2 ways I've seen to do this. You either have the boss stand in the middle of the room, so like the X of the beams hits him both times, or the other option is have him stand at the left one, you kill him, and you kill that left like computer console, and then you go to the right one, and then you kill that one, and then you push the phase. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. I've done both ways.
Okay. So we've tried both ways, and I'm the only tank, and I'm blaming all the losses and the wipes on me as a bad tank. But there's a lot of damage that's going out during that phase, and I guess I'm just a little confused on what's happening because all of a sudden, like 3 people will be dead.
Yeah, they gotta keep moving.
Well, there's two
The
things that can
little
really kill people. Yeah, the ads will definitely kill people if they get close to somebody. The ads will root that person and they'll start taking massive amounts of damage. The other thing that'll start killing people, and this will probably kill you more than anybody else, is the green attack. The green cast bar that the boss does. It's a count down, not a count up. That does stacking damage to the tank, and it needs to be interrupted, or else the
Yeah,
tank
it's
takes a
good
lot of
to have
damage.
an interrupt order set and have people call out their interrupts for that. Because sometimes the channel just breaks by itself, and so you want to know if it broke or if someone interrupted. And
Oh,
so when
okay.
we were clearing it, we had a interrupt order that was sometimes followed.
All right. So so we got through the first droid phase just a couple times, and then we got to the turrets. We're doing a one tank strat. So far, I think this week the leader of the team, Thuxia, he is bringing the tank, not the DPS. Um, so I don't know. Maybe I'm hoping that we can kind of get through the turret phase because during the turrets, people were just getting demolished. Um, and I noticed that they lose aggro a lot. That's as far as I've gotten in the fight. But what I did was on Thursday, or I don't know, one night afterwards, I went and did story mode gods, and it was actually awesome. Oh, it might have been Sunday because it was Mother's Day and we had raid night was off, and we did a quick story mode run, and I noticed things in that fight because like I was holding the boss, but there's no real mechanics in that. You can just basically stand there and survive. So I noticed that there was like I'm gonna call them like pie shaped uh purple. They're not circles, they're pie shaped, but just not with a point, and they rotate around the room. I noticed that clearly it's almost like you're going to have to tank her and run through that maze so you're not standing in that purple. That's the way I understand it. And then I learned about the balls, that there's 3 balls that float around her. Um that is you have to keep them blue for some reason. Um I don't know about you guys, but when I watch a video and there's nobody talking, it's just a video, like I see what they're doing, but I don't necessarily understand what they're doing. I don't know
Yeah,
how do you guys learn fights? Do you guys learn by doing, or can you watch anybody's video of clearing it and you guys get it?
I learned by doing or just asking people to explain things on a video. But yeah, you're right. It's definitely hard to pick up certain mechanics, like understand why people do things that they do. I mean, obviously it works because it's probably a video where someone cleared it. But um, yeah, if you're one of those people who wants to know why, then there's other dialogue involved that you need to or go read up on something.
Sure.
Thing about
What about
Skyva is that Skyva is such a weird fight. Like it seems like there were mechanics involved that got taken out, and then you just kind of burn the boss, but you don't know what's going on. You want to be behind the blue orb and not behind the red orb, but you don't know why. You obviously don't want to be in front of the boss because then there's a lot of cleave. You want to do the atomic whatever it is, when you have to burst the boss and then interrupt her, right? It's just like there's a lot of mechanics
Yeah,
in
that boss
Skyba, but
definitely
it's a
got.
lot. But it definitely feels like a random fight if you don't know what's going on.
There's been like a series of patches and bugs that they took forever to patch in. So depending on what video you're watching, like some of the mechanics that are now in Skyva weren't there when they cleared it, and so it's kind of interesting to kind of go back in the past and see what they did. Um, but yeah, the red balls cause damage, so you don't want to stand on them. The blue balls don't, so you don't need to care about them too much. There's like a gravity thing that you have to like kind of do, or you don't, or if you don't, you just take a lot of damage. And I mean, at least in hard mode, it's heal. You can heal through it, so it's not a big deal. But
Used
but
to
yeah,
be
there's
that it
just
would,
a
as soon
lot of
as that
crap going on.
knockback happened, it would kill you when it was hardmare. I remember that.
Yeah, but now with veterans edge stacks, you can just kind of not move and just tunnel DPS. It's great.
Yeah, it's one of those weird fights that you just need to pop your adrenals at the right moment and then interrupt, and then it's almost a win. Like once the boss is down to like 40%, everybody's already kind of like, all right, boss is done. If there's a turret still up, then they switch over. Range would switch to the turret after you're supposed to be burning that. I mean, it's a unique fight in that it's one of those things where there's mechanics, but at the same time, you still have that burst burn phase of like 40% of the boss.
Right, and you have to, and then at the end in that burn phase, you have to run around the room because there's all those circles that one shot you.
Yeah. I mean, that one's easy. I can tell everybody to run clockwise, and everybody just goes, whoop, 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 whoop.
Huh.
That's what I would do.
But Kogass, to the original question of how do you learn? When you're learning a new boss fight, do you learn by doing, by watching a video or talk, video and talk to people? How is your way of learning?
So my way of learning is that I will do as much research on the fight as I can before I go in. If I'm going in to a new raid, to a new ops fight, I'm gonna look up every single video that I can, see what's going on. There were some people who made some really good guides. I think when Hut hard mode came out, Freaky had a 45-minute video on the Hut hard mode when that was the progression to come out with. When Isaac's hard mode came out, and which guild was it? Aeon, I believe, that came out with their 20 plus page, guide on how to beat Isaac's. I read through all of that. I watched videos, and because you're going to learn the fight one way or another. Everybody's going to learn the fight, but it all depends on how long that takes. Now, it's going to take a much longer time to learn that fight if the only time you're looking at that fight is during the raid. And at that point, you're not doing everything for your teammates. You're not doing anything for anybody that's in the raid because you're like, well, what do you mean I have to look up this fight? Well, you're not learning if you need to change your utilities. You're not learning if you need to have, if you need to swap out some gear, if you need a different tactical, right?
But
You
at the
don't.
sound of, at the price of sounding kind of elitist, I want to push back on that a little bit because I'm definitely a learning by doing person and not a look up the guides. But to be fair, most of the times that I've been doing prog stuff, there haven't been any guides. Nimna Hut or Nim Gods, accepted since I sat out for
Oh no,
5.0.
absolutely. There's some
But
fights
I
that just
mean,
don't have guides,
usually
but
if there's
you
no
still
guides,
need
what do you
to.
do?
But then if you're not looking up anything, you're still going to learn the fight, because just because I looked up the fight doesn't mean I'm going to learn the fight beforehand. It's just going to take longer to learn the fight if you don't look everything up. If you don't know what's to come, if you don't know why you have to pop the adrenal, if you don't know you have to interrupt Skyva in that cast, you're going to wipe 3 or 4 times more than you would if you're like, okay, cool, that was the burn phase that we need to interrupt, and then you're good with that mechanic and you're able to move on. It's going to be silly things that cause wipes and hold you back, as opposed to just moving forward on from those things.
Maybe for things that there are guides for. I don't know. I'm pretty excited for Nim Duxon. Since there's no guides and no one quite knows if any of the bugs are going to get fixed.
Well, it seems to me for like Nim Duxon, anytime a new op comes out and it's brand new, of course there's not going to be a guide. I mean, there's a bunch of people doing it on the PTS. I think I saw Lauren's team progging it on the PTS. But for all you know, when it comes out, it's going to be different than it was on the PTS.
I
You know
hope
what I
it
mean?
is.
Well, I'm
It's so
sure.
buggy right now.
I mean, hard mode is buggy. Story mode is buggy. I mean, I just think there's issues with that. Anyway, Death Star Troopers, we've been working on Revan. The last time we talked about it, we made it to the 3rd floor. It's starting to be a dance. I think that's going back to which Glitch said. I think Revan is a lot of, once you know it, and learning that it takes your steps, because that is very scripted on what's going to happen. So it's just basically learning the floors as you go. But for me to learn that fight, it's straight up by doing it, because there's no, I can watch all the guides in the world, but until you're in that room and you see those aberrations or abravisions, whatever they're called, like flash towards you and you need to turn to them, until you've done it, and seen it, it's I mean, I run around basically wearing a blindfold or like a chicken with his head cut off because that's basically what do I have to do? You know what I mean, kind of a thing. And
Oh yeah, absolutely.
what sucks about Revan is there's no way to really get up on like there's no like good overview of the third floor. Maybe if you like pause the screen on a fight, but because the roof is there, you can't get over it to like imagine the clock. Because when you come up, you're at what 6 o'clock, and then you got to
Right,
move them to 3 o'clock, and then you got to
right.
go to 12 o'clock, and then there's aberrations in the middle, and then there's backing up, and it's just absolute mayhem.
I mean, the big thing I would suggest is your mini map is your best friend at that point. Half the time of that, I'm looking at my mini map, making sure I'm pointing at the right direction.
Sure. Uh, so that fight's been quite an adventure for me and the team. Um, we're hoping to, you know, hopefully we get some good prog this week coming. We also had two new members join. Muscle Man, he's a raider. You can see him streaming all the time, and Annie, and he's on my Saturday night team. He was nice enough to join. So it's nice that our team went from one of eight, sorry, having the clear on the fight to three people having the clear. And then now the fourth person, which is Doc, he's seen the third floor. Um, at least he understands it. So I think as the team goes, when you see something, at least you have some kind of knowledge on what's happening. Um, but I did hear that he died as soon as he got on the third floor, so he saw it from the floor. Um,
Well, I mean, he had a well, so I was in that raid with him. He had a good point. That I didn't really think about too much was turning and looking at an aberration is such a unique mechanic to that fight. Like it's nowhere else in the game. So like there definitely is some sort of I guess learning curve if you're not used to it.
oh, 100%. I
So
mean,
it wasn't entirely his fault that he died every time we got to the third floor. I mean, yeah, it was still his fault, but it is what it is.
well, I mean, but like you said, you need to learn it. It's not like you can't just you can't just walk into a fight and win if you've never done it before with mechanics like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can walk in and kill Nephra the first night without knowing because there's one mechanic, right? Or maybe two. But going into, you know, Revan first night and clearing it with nobody ever doing it, I doubt that's going to happen. I mean, just the first thing where he throws you over your shoulder. I mean, that's wee down the rabbit hole. Anyways, in SOTOR news, they announced Swoop Racing as a new event coming. So the All Worlds Ultimate Swoop Rally, I can't talk, is our newest event. See, if Nick was here, he'd be reading this. Coming soon with game update 6.1.2, this event will function like the other reoccurring in-game events, like the Pirate Incursion, Raccoon Resurgence, the Gree event. Um, before it goes live worldwide, the players interested in testing it, they can go on to the PTS and try it now. What do you guys think about swoop racing?
Probably never going to do it. Unless there's a sick ass cosmetic tied to it. Yeah, probably not going to do it. I just raise log.
What about you, Kogas?
Oh, I'll probably do it. I mean, there's new reputation that goes with it. It's got some new. There's going to be new rewards for it. There's going to be new titles. That looks like something I'm going to get into. I'm sure it's not swoop racing like it was back in KOTOR, but I'm still down. I'm still just willing to see what they're able to do. Probably going to be some fun, I would say.
Oh, I'm not going to test it on the PTS, um, but I'm definitely going to try it because it's something new, and I always wanted pod racing in the game because I thought it would be fun, and I would kind of, hopefully, it's not just like riding your speeder around at the same speed. Hopefully they can get it a little bit faster.
Yeah, I was watching a couple of streamers. I watched Osha stream it. I saw Teresa stream it. They have a couple of different modes. They got one where it's like all speed. They got one where you have to blow up some fireworks or blow up some diffuse, some mines, some other stuff. So there's like random like 3 different kinds of things you can do on the map or on the track. And then from there, it's that's how you get the different reputation is from what you can do, from what I understand.
Huh.
Yeah, if they tie in getting gear that's for raiding or whatever to it, then I'll probably do it. But otherwise,
That would just probably be cosmetic at this point.
yeah,
Yeah,
not really looking for it.
yeah, but like if it was a sweet like outfit and you could go
Dude, I
around
still have
looking like
the same outfits from like 2.0. Like until Riku made fun of me for one of my outfits, and I had Adorbs, redo it for me. Yeah, that's the extent of Barbie dress up I play. I
that
mean,
I
I
can
don't really have to
understand.
look at my outfit anyway. It's just everyone else who has to. So why should I care?
No,
That
I
makes me
get
sound
it.
selfish, doesn't it?
No, that's the thing about it. That's the thing about an MMO is everybody plays the game the way they play. My Star Wars: The Old Republic is different than yours, which is different than Kogass's. That's why it's an MMO, right? I know people who just level tunes and just do the story over and over and over again. There's people that just, do PvP every single day, all day, PvP. And then there's one
PvP.
guy, yeah, and then there's one guy that takes a million Jaeger shots during his PvPing, and it's hilarious. Shout out to TMG.
Shout
Anyways,
out TMG. Yo, that's my homeboy.
so in guild news, next Friday, next Friday night, May 22nd, I'll be hosting our monthly Epic Guild activity, which is mega. We're gonna be doing another super duper duper Datacron run, 9 p.m. Eastern. Inside, we're gonna start on the inside. Hopefully, I personally don't have the Coruscant Datacrons, so I'm hoping we can pop over to the pub side so I can get the pub side ones on Coruscant. So hopefully you guys can be there. Again, it's 9:00 p.m. on the right side of the country server. I mean time zone, Eastern. So be there. You do not need to be in the guild to come. If you need some Datacrons, come on over. Message me on Discord or Twitter, and we'll make sure we get you involved. If all this sounds fun to you, go to aie-guild.org, get the Discord information, ask for a guild invite. Whether you play SOTOR or any of the other games AIE plays, we would love to have you. Oh, I forgot. Can I get a horn sound? Anybody? So, a couple, like 5 episodes ago, we started a contest to where if you gave us the top 3 code phrases, the winner got any item they wanted on the cartel market. Last episode, I completely forgot. Nick
Oh, how
reminded
could
me
you
to put
do
it.
that?
Yeah, Nick reminded me, but I totally spaced on the winner. So,
Well, thanks for having me on the show. As I won, I really shucks, man. You
Oh,
shouldn't have.
spoiler alert.
no, you did not win. Oh, I wrote your name
What?
down.
Okay,
No.
who's the big winner? Drum roll. Do we
So
need to do a little
so
drum roll?
the thank you. So the winner is Katie, Catie, Twitter handle at Vetrix, Vetrix. Ah, shit, I don't know. But anyways,
Betranix.
yes, thank you.
Betranix.
So I'll send you a DM on Twitter after the show is live, or you can message me, whatever's faster, and I'll explain to you what Dan from BioWare said we have to do so you can get any item you want on the cartel market, except a pack, a hyper crate, or the commander compendium thing. You can't get one of those, but other than that, you can have anything you want. And real quick, before we dive into this really spicy topic, if you guys could get anything you wanted off the cartel market, what would it be? Go.
Oh, I got to think about this. I didn't know that I wasn't one
Hey,
of
you
those
can't just
items.
spring this question on us.
It's one of the new items. I was like, man, I really want that. It was gosh, man, what
Well,
was
I'll
it?
tell you what I would get. I would get that awesome lightsaber that it's like the regular lightsaber, but it's like Kylo Ren's but it's out at a V. I don't know what it's called,
Right.
but it's an
The Dark
unstable
Honor
lightsaber.
Guard saber. That's a
Yeah,
Dark
I
Honor
would.
Guard lightsaber.
Now that I'm
There's
a juggernaut, that would be my lightsaber.
You could have used that
there's
lightsaber when you were a Marauder.
No, but I would. It's too big. It's too big for a Marauder.
I'm telling they need to have Shoto versions of those really cool lightsabers. Tell you, man. Shoto versions for Marauders for people that have dual wielding. There was Arn's lightsaber is one I really like. It was that one. You're gonna make me log in to see this.
It's okay. But that for me, that's what I would get. So congratulations again, Katie. That's awesome. Thank you everybody who entered. We had a bunch of people enter. It's kind of rewarding to see when a bunch of people enter the contest because that means they're listening to the show, and I know it, and Nick knows it. This is a terrible show. So, with that said, see, Nick isn't here, so there is no break. How amazing is that?
Oh wow! Look at
There's
that.
there is no small bladder break today. So Nick, you're listening to this. You can go to the bathroom now, but we'll continue on. So,
All right, let's do it.
all right, today's topic, and I said it before, and I'm gonna say it again, is a really spicy one. There's toxicity included in it. There's people that are passionate about this. I do not. So full discretion, I've only done two nightmare cleared fights, which is Nephra and whatever the first boss of Terror from Beyond is. It's a weird slug. Those are the only two nightmare fights I've cleared, and I've attempted Toth and Zorn and Nightmare in explosive conflict. So with that said, I have an opinion about this, but I do not have experience with it. So I brought in two resident Nightmare Raiders. Both of them have their own feelings. I don't know what it is. I kind of know what their feelings are, but this is why I brought them here. So we're going to take a nosedive into Nightmare Raiding. So as everybody knows, Nightmare Raiding in SOTOR is the hardest content in the game. If you're Nightmare Raiding, you're the best of the best. Some people call it the 2% of the game. Some people call it the top 37 people. It could be 100. I don't actually know what it is, but it's a very small percentage of the community that do this, almost like ranked PvP. But there may be more ranked PvP players. So
I think there's more Nightmare Raiders.
I'm not sure. Okay. So
A lot of overlap.
yeah, maybe. So we're gonna call it's called the Nightmare Crystal, and I'm gonna read to what the Nightmare Crystal is. So the Nightmare Crystal, its use increases your damage, healing, and health in a nightmare mode operation. Will be removed if you leave the area. So that's basically what the crystal does. I have no idea how long it lasts. So basically, the way I understand it is, and I'm going to ask you guys' opinions in one sec. The way I understand it is, if you're in a nightmare raid, you can take this crystal, and please correct me, guys, if I say it wrong. If I go into a raid and I eat this crystal or use this crystal, and I'm doing 10,000 DPS to start, it's going to boost me up to 12,000 DPS. Is that the truth?
Should be a 20% increase.
Okay, so I would,
yes.
yeah, so there it is. So if I'm doing 10,000 DPS, it's going to allow me to do 12,000. And it increases your healing, so maybe it's going to make it easier for the healers to heal you. But in Nightmare, is it that the damage is more, or do they actually scale back the healing that a healer can do?
There's more damage.
More damage.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the way I understand this is you can eat this thing, you get an awesome buff, and it helps you progress and push forward to be able to beat a boss. Now, where the toxicity comes in this community is there's clearly a black and a white. There's not really from the people I've talked about, it's either black or white. There's nobody gray. So this is simple yes or no. Glitch, are you in favor of the Nightmare Crystal?
I can't answer the question with a simple yes or no.
Okay, why?
I would say if you were progging a raid, no. But if you were doing a cell run, for instance, where you have basically a floor tanking DPS who's, buying the run, it's fine to pop a Nightmare Crystal.
Okay, Kogass.
You're asking simply, am I for or against the Nightmare Crystal usage?
Correct.
Why not?
All right. So the way I see it is, if I guess we'll start with what Glitch said about the Nightmare Crystal, about how it's okay to use it on a sales run, but it's not okay to use it if you're progging. So my opinion is, so if you're going to make 400 million credits on it, it's okay to use it. But if you're right at the end and the boss is enraging with, 5% left, why not use it? Because it's the same achievement.
Because when you're doing the sales run, you already have the achievement. Like, people who participate in sales runs, not counting the buyer, of course, are already already accomplished Nightmare Raiders. Like, they've already cleared it in having a full group. The Nightmare Crystal is just there to make up for the fact that they're basically short manning an operation that's designed for more people.
But is that what the Nightmare Crystal was even designed for? Or was
That's
the Nightmare
how
Crystal
I would
designed?
use it.
Is the Nightmare Crystal designed for, for that group that needs just that little bit more? I mean, I
So
would
all of
say the Nightmare Crystal would be less beneficial. We got to compare Nightmare Crystals to what it's making up is your stats and gear. And the only
but
thing you
it's
can really
not though.
compare it
If you're
to,
running it with a full 8, how do you feel about Lance Armstrong?
he was a cheat.
Okay, but Nightmare Crystals are okay.
I mean, are we doing this? Is that they're in the game?
So
They're not. Nobody says, Bioware doesn't say Nightmare Crystals are an exploit. You cannot use them.
right, but if you could get away with doping for the Olympics, would you? I mean, take it or leave it. The equivalent of a Nightmare Raid
But no,
and
that's
sports
you're
is basically
altering
the
that. You're
Olympics.
altering. You're saying if you could get away with something, that's not Nightmare Crystals
If
aren't
doping
against
was
it. It's
legal,
not.
would you
It's not
dope to
used.
go to the Olympics?
It's not doping though. It is absolutely. You cannot use that same comparison because doping is clearly stated as illegal.
But if
You
it was
cannot.
not illegal, would you?
If it
Like, would
was
that
not
be?
illegal, then how many people would be doing doping? Would you dope if it was not illegal? Would any
Probably not.
professional athlete to get
Well,
that
they did.
professional edge? They did, even when it was illegal. So I mean, to say that Nightmare Crystals are this comparison to something that is illegal and frowned upon 100%, not only by the governing entity of that event, that sporting thing, it's also shunned upon by the people.
Well,
So you
so
can't really compare doping to the Nightmare Crystal because
I
BioWare is
can
like,
though,
put that in there.
because
Not the
but I
same. Not
can
even
though.
close. How is it the same if BioWare says this is in the game? We put it in there intentionally for you. Use it if you want to.
Yeah,
As
if
opposed
you're
to
bad and you
doping is
can't clear
illegal.
the
If you
content, that's
do,
then
if you dope, we're taking
hold on.
everything you win away. If you got the kill, with the Nightmare Crystal. Would BioWare take your achievement away from you?
no.
Okay, so now
But
Lance Armstrong.
using
No, let me finish. Lance Armstrong doped.
wait, so you get to
Did
cut
they
me off,
take
but I
did they
can't keep
take his
going?
titles away from him?
Yeah, eventually.
Yes, there you go. Because they found out he doped. So you cannot make that same comparison.
All right then. But why would you need to use a Nightmare Crystal if you're 5% away? I mean, everything has been tuned so that you can clear it with a full 8-man squad. So basically, what you're saying is my group isn't good enough, so we have to, take steroids so we can get push, do that, last 5% push that you say. Like, there's absolutely no reason a Nightmare Crystal is needed unless you're intentionally short manning a raid, like in a sales run.
Right, but if your team is missing that 5%, what's wrong with using it
Maybe
for that
they
little
should think
edge?
about learning how to play their class better. I mean, the point
Okay,
of Nightmare isn't just to get the Nightmare achievement. It's also to have the challenge of getting the achievement. Um,
but
I would say
so
the Can I
getting
finish
the
my
Wait,
sentence?
Nightmare
wait, wait,
Crystal.
wait,
Hey,
wait,
can I finish?
Kogas, wait one second. Yeah, wait
Is
one
it at
second, Kogas.
all feasible for me to finish my sentences?
No, we're giving you your time.
All right. So the goal of nightmare rating is twofold, right? It's obviously is to get the achievements so you can feel good about yourself, but it's also to have that actual challenge of going through and getting the achievement. Like the journey is probably as important, if not more important, than the what is it? The destination, I guess, would be the end of the analogy. And so using the nightmare crystal basically just gives you a shortcut. Like yeah, you don't have to learn how to if you're a DPS, right? You don't necessarily have to learn how to play your class properly. You get that extra free 2k DPS if you're doing 10k, using that
Sure.
example from before.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
if
That's
you're
just
a
was
bad
the round
healer, you
number.
can, if you're not a great healer, you can, be, I guess, buttressed by this nightmare crystal. But the alternative is to actually just learn how to play your class effectively, learn the mechanics. You don't have to cheese things with a nightmare crystal. I mean, that's why I'm against nightmare crystaling. It's basically just this unnecessary shortcut for lazy
I
people.
I have one question for the both of you. So the Nightmare Crystal just boosts your DPS and your healing, right? So no matter what, the Nightmare team has to do all of the mechanics correct. So
No,
it's not
you
like
don't
eight.
know.
I can't take. Okay, hold on one sec. So I can't take Death Star Trooper. I could take Death Star Troopers. All eight of us pop a Nightmare Crystal, and we could win the first night with never doing those fights before. Or would we? Or is it more of? Or is the Nightmare Crystal used? That okay, we've got all the mechanics down to Nightmare Nahut as a conversation. We've got all the mechanics down. We're in burn phase. We've got 5% in every single we can't get past 5%. 5%, that's the most we can put out. The Sork, the operative, the Marauder, and the Merc are doing the absolute best they can, but they just can't do it. It's not okay for one of them to pop that crystal to get
That's
them
not
over
a
that edge.
feasible solution. Like that's not even like a real thing. Like it doesn't work that way. Um,
Which part?
any of it. The scenario just falls apart. So if you pop a nightmare crystal, you can ignore mechanics. If you push bosses faster, you can ignore mechanics because you make the phase go by faster. And so that's
Right,
kind of
but
what I
the
was
problem
alluding
is
to with
that okay,
Hold
go
on one
ahead.
that's
sec,
the
Kogas.
problem I
Go
was
ahead.
alluding to with Nahut that a lot of groups run into is it's not like an actual DPS check, but it kind of is. If you don't push Nahut fast enough and get into a turrets phase, um, there's just a lot of raid wide damage that goes on. If you have the DPS to push it, then you can ignore that being in phase one for a really long time. If you had a Nightmare Crystal, you don't need to have good DPS. They can just pop a crystal and do the extra 2k. And so to me, that's more like being lazy about the game and looking for a shortcut, and that's why I'm against Nightmare Crystals. Like
That's a
there's
really
no
good point.
way that there's enough. All of the bosses in the game currently have been tuned so that if you have 4 DPS that know how to play their class inside and out, they're not going to fail the DPS check.
Okay.
If you have two healers that know how to use their classes, not overheat or run out of energy or what have you, they can heal through everything that should be healed through. If your 8 raiders know all of the mechanics really well, they're not going to die to mechanics. And if your tanks know how to play their tanks classes and what DCDs they should pop when, they're absolutely healable. Like there's absolutely no reason for having a Nightmare Crystal if the 8 people in your raid know what to do and can actually execute. So the
Co-
5% sort of like example just doesn't hold up.
okay. Well, maybe I should have said 10% because then
No,
that would
that's
have
the
been the
DPS
difference.
problem.
But
Well, I
right.
mean, it's just weird because it's. I feel like you're throwing out two different standards and trying to merge them into the same thing.
Who,
You're trying
me?
to say
What are the two
no.
standards?
Like if everybody knows everything correct 100%, then there should be no reason for it. But at the same time, there's obviously missing that 5%, or saying that everything you should learn to fight before the hand. I earlier I stated that I would say do all the work you can to prep up for the nightmare. You need to be on the dummies, you need to do all that, and then you're saying that, well, just learn to fight as you go. You're not going to understand your class, your utilities, all the things you need to do for that fight while you're in the fight. You're going to need to do work outside of the raid to do that. And I feel you're somewhat giving conflicting information when you're saying, well,
We
you should
took
just
a
learn the
brand
fights
new
while you're in
tank
the fight.
for Nightmare Gods, and we cleared Tithe the first night with him. Tithe is a
Okay.
very tank heavy fight. He did fine. Actually, he did really well. But we were able to clear it, the first night.
Okay. I mean, nightmare raids, in my opinion, are one of the things where you can take one person who's never seen the raid and cater to them and help them out. Um, I definitely believe that you can. I've definitely done it. I've definitely seen it where you can take one person and cater to them and help them out with the raid. I do not think that's really fair for you to say one person didn't know the fight. We took them in there. It was fine. We're talking about a brand new raid progression group. What should a raid progression group do? You're saying you're throwing out different instances. If it's a sales run, if it's my progression raid team, or this one where I threw,
Every single
one
fight
new
at this
person.
point has been out for at least 2 or 3 years.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
nothing is
But I
new under
mean,
the sun
everything,
anymore.
but the difference is, and this is why I kind of went way back when we started talking about this, I wanted to say nightmare crystals are equivalent to gear. And the pure fact that when a new expansion comes out, you start with the bottom tier gear. And this is how BioWare has done it since I've followed it. The most lowest gear, which we're at right now, is 306 gear. Only the strongest raiders are going to be able to clear nightmare fights, apex bosses without a crystal and without anything else, just knowing those fights like you're saying. The best of the best of the best are going to be able to clear these fights right now with 306 gear and no crystals. Now, once we start getting up, all right, and that is equivalent to what, the 242s back in 5.0, 5.x? We started at 242 was the highest. Then we jumped up to 248s. Then we jumped up to 252s, then 258s. If somebody is saying that they were a nightmare raider at the end of 5.0, 5.9.xx, they're a nightmare raider. They're clearing all the content, but their gear is full min max 258 versus somebody who is clearing things in near 236 gear with the different tiers of augment on top of that. I was clearing those fights with that kind of gear and remembering and talking specifically to the devs, being like, man, these fights we're hitting on TFB, we're hitting the enrage on the tentacles every single time, and everybody's doing the max DPS they can. DPS are going in there, they're reflecting the slams, to go with that, and we're still getting hitting enrage timers. And devs looked at me, Musco looked me in the eye, and he's like, that's the plan, that's the design. It's like, why?
Yeah, it's
And then
supposed to be
and
hard. It
then
would be hard
it's
mode
supposed to be
otherwise.
hard. But now in 258 gear, you're getting people who are clearing those boss fights, no enrage, not nearly as skilled players, and they're getting all those kills. So is being in 258 gear now expected out of people? Yeah, absolutely. But when you have those lower tiers right now, when we're in 306 gear, can people pop nightmare crystals? No, no, no. That's shunned upon. Shouldn't do that. But when new gear comes out to clear out some of the stuff that's harder, that's kind of where I made the
But right
comparison
now,
of
Gods
nightmare
is doing
crystals.
fine for 306 gear,
Okay.
especially after they buffed all of us and kind of nerfed it a little bit. Like there's what, like I think 20 something groups doing Gods now. Like a month ago,
I
it was 4 groups.
I so I really started my first brand new raid in this game was Gods from the Machine. So I can kind of speak to what you guys are talking about here. Um I don't know which one of you said it about these raids. These raids have been around for a while. So if you're a Nightmare Raider and you've been around for a long time, going to Nightmare Dread Fortress is like riding a bike, right? You guys know the mechanics, but how about a new team? Let's think about a brand new team, 8 people, Death Star Troopers. Perfect example. Death Star Troopers goes in, just we clear Revan, we clear hard mode gods, and we just say, you know what? Let's go into Nightmare, I don't know, Scum and Villainy, right? One of the tanks, he's done Nightmare raids. Okay, so he has knowledge. Another player is in doing Nightmare raids, but everybody else has never done it. We're going to have to prog each boss and learn each boss's mechanics like this is a brand new fight,
Right,
right?
I've been there. I
Okay,
think Kogass has
so
probably been there too. Like
No, no, no.
I prog DP when Nightmare Power was the thing. We were server first on some of the boss players. Like there were no guides. It was a competition to see who got there first.
Okay. So my question to you is in our gear set that we're all talking about right now, and so Death Star Troopers, I'm using them because it's my team, and I gotta, you know, have a base. So we go through Nightmare, Scum, and Villainy. We prog it for a month or two or whatever it is, and we get to Styrak, right?
That's very fast for prog. Congratulations.
Well, I actually don't know Glitch because I've never done it. So I'm putting out a scenario, right? Whether it's a month, 2 months, or 3 months, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just saying we've never done this. We have two people that have done Nightmare raids, but not the team. My question is, if we do Nightmare Styrak and we once we learn all the mechanics and everything, and we're right there at the edge to winning, and somebody in me, I'm saying to myself, if this is Super Mario and there's a gold star bouncing, I'm going to pick up that gold star and I'm going to run as fast as I can so I can win that level and I can move on to the next thing. But the conflicting comments here are I shouldn't take that bouncing star that the game has given me uh, to be able to clear the content and move on, because between me and you, I could give a shit. The achievement is the same. And that's the
Thing
way
about
I'm.
Nightmare raiding isn't just learning the mechanics though. Like, and that's something you and Kogass have both gotten glossed over a couple of times now. To a large extent, it's also knowing your class and how it plays and what it can do,
Mm-hmm.
and kind
Sure.
of pushing it to its limits. And a lot of the groups that I sub in for, the individuals know the mechanics but can't push their class to the limit. That sounds like a really bad slogan for, a 1980s whatever, but yeah, they don't play their class to its full potential. And so yeah, the Nightmare Crystal helps them because it covers up for the fact that, say they're doing a PT and cap content, they can't push the 13 or 14 or 15k that a PT can do. Like maybe they're sitting around 9k or something. Yeah, the Nightmare Crystal makes their DPS, inflated to 11 or 12k. But if they knew how to play their class, they wouldn't need the Nightmare Crystal because they'd already be at that DPS threshold. Like if everybody was able to play their class to its full potential, Nightmare Crystals are irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's in the game. If you can't play your class to its full potential for whatever reason, it's completely up to you if you want to use it.
But
But
then,
if other people find out for it, we'll just make fun of you merciless for it, especially if you go and post your achievement somewhere. I mean, that's just how the community is.
and that,
We're a
and that's the
toxic bunch
thing.
of losers.
Well, but Glitch, I understand what you're saying here. I really do. But where I'm trying to understand this is I don't know why they want to be toxic, because in my opinion, if it's in the game to use, then why not use it?
Because we
And I
have
think
put
that's
in the time to learn our class, and we have put in the time to, we spent in like hours
okay.
upon hours of parsing on a dummy, which is easily the most boring thing I can think of doing in Star Wars next to playing Barbie dress up. Sorry if that's your thing. I hate
Oh,
it.
absolutely
Um,
not. I'm not good at it.
no, it's
Okay.
just it's such a boring activity to hit a dummy for hours on end and practice your
Absolutely.
rotation. But we've put in the work, and so we're able to play at that level. And then for someone to like not do that, if I put in, hours and hours over the last 7 or 8 years I've played this stupid game, um, learning my class and kind of being able to be very good at parsing and be able to translate that parsing into an actual ops DPS, it's almost like maybe not quite cheating, but like definitely like I don't know,
Skipping.
it's yeah skipping ahead.
Skipping
Some of
ahead. Yeah.
the I guess necessary sort of personal prog. And I think that's a lot of why uh, Nightmare Raiders in general are pretty toxic about, or pretty toxic towards people who use Nightmare Crystals. It's like you guys just kind of, I want to say use the word cheat, but it's not really technically a cheat since it's in the game. But skipping ahead and like not putting in the right amount of work to to get the same reward. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And with that, I can definitely agree with that point of view and how some people are like, oh, I got this
It's like if
achievement,
I
but
intentionally like it's like if I knew people were queuing up for ranked PvP and I knew they were bad, and I would just queue sync until I got to them. You know, that would be kind of the equivalent. If I saw like people who were streaming ranked PvP and I knew I could beat them, I would, queue up for PvP for
right,
that. But
right.
then
I
when I see,
mean,
people were actually good, like Cap, and ranked, I would just, not bother with queuing. Like it's kind of like, that would be the easy equivalent in game. There are
I
people I
think
could farm and people who farm me.
yeah, the best example I think I could relate with that is back in 3.0 and 4.0, there was a lot of people buying the Hateful Mask, from Hateful Entity. And that thing was just being purchased left and right, and everybody would be wearing it. And it'd be like, okay, that's really cool that you are wearing it, but it definitely, in my opinion, devalued the people who actually earned it the right, on regular runs with their friends who did prog group, 16-man prog group for that. Uh,
Which
that's
one's
kind of
right? Which one's the hateful? Is that the one in Terror from Beyond or the one in Scum and Villainy?
scum and villainy.
Okay,
Where
Looks like
people
a
that's the
would,
remaster.
nightmare. That's the nightmare one, right?
yes.
Okay, I've only done the hard mode one. That's why I asked, but I couldn't remember the name. And so, we're both on the general consensus that if you know your class, you can push it to the limit and you can win. But here's the monkey wrench that I'm putting in this. What happens when BioWare nerfs a class and the DPS goes down and you're doing your max DPS on your class?
If
And
you're a
let me just
Nightmare
play it.
Raider.
Well, if you're a Nightmare Raider, but hear me out with this. So let's say my favorite class is the Marauder. So let's imagine in my Marcus's imaginary world that the Marauder just got nerfed hard. But that's the only class I know how to play because I've been playing it for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, however long you've been playing. And I'm a pro at the Marauder, right? But your DPS is down 20% because of the BioWare nerfs. What do you do?
You're gonna hate this answer,
Yeah,
and I
I
Yeah,
think
know what you're gonna say.
Glitch is gonna agree with me on this. I mean, switch
If
classes.
you're a Nightmare Raider, you should already know more than one class.
Exactly. Like that's kind of the
Like if you're an
thing.
actual Nightmare Raider, you would know how to play at least two DPS classes. And if you were playing a Marauder and you were a Nightmare Raider, you would probably know at least two of the specs that are DPS. I mean, you got three specs to choose from. But
mm-hmm.
seriously, who really plays Rage? Or I guess Rage is actually pretty good. Never mind. I mean,
Which one's Rage? Which one's Rage?
think I think
There's
get him
Carnage is
started.
the
Annihilation and
weakest one.
Carnage.
Carnage is the
Annihilation and
weakest
Carnage
one.
and Fury.
Yeah, Fury. Sorry,
Yeah, Fury's Fury's for PvP.
Fury's pretty good in PvE. I mean,
Fury,
no,
Fury, from what I understand, is strong right now in PVE.
if you can put up with where Obliterate puts you, which is sometimes in not so good places, it's fine. No, the easy example would be to say IO Merc, since they're about to get nerfed. Like I think they're about to take like a 2.3, 2.5k DPS loss, um, based on what's being changed on PTS right now. But if anyone who plays IO Merc is also a Nightmare Raider, they probably already know how to play Arsenal Merc, and they probably know how to play Pyro PT, and they probably know how to play AP PT. Like there's definitely other alternatives to just playing one class if you're a Nightmare Caliber Raider. And if you aren't, then like I said, it's time to go hit that parsing dummy a few times.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's
Well,
some people play a new class. I mean, the whole thing is, Marcus, is that a Nightmare Crystal should not be the go-to thing for every single night you're doing progression rating. In my thought process, the Nightmare Crystal should be used if, hey, we're missing DPS checks. The way I would use it if I was in a raid group, we're missing DPS checks. One of the DPS, it doesn't even have to be me. It could be one of the teammates, or we're not making something, and just something isn't clicking, and we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing. Then it's time to use a crystal. That's how. And or if there's one person who just refuses and doesn't want to do and doesn't want to do something, if there's and this is something that I don't even think we've hit, but in nightmare raids, DPS are expected to do DPS, but sometimes a DPS will have to do raid wides all the time. For the group in order to benefit everybody, right? Healers are expected to do some kind of DPS during a raid, and tanks, will do whatever they can. I mean, a good tank, a good jug tank, would throw out, for instance, an intercede and a nightmare raid to try to help somebody out.
I mean, if
One of
DPS was a
these,
problem, I would say just swap classes to classes that, I mean, bring a viable class. One of the
Well,
that's
people I
kind of
raid
an
with
issue
brings
with
a sniper to
Bio in the
everything,
game
and he,
balance.
hates me
well,
right now.
that's
I keep saying that to him, but bring a viable class. If
well.
your current DPS comp isn't good enough, bring classes that can be good enough.
But okay, so but why should it be like that? If you're a proficient marauder, and I'm using this, I don't know if I don't nightmare raid. So like I'm putting this scenario out because I just don't want to put out false pretense that the marauder got nerfed. But if you're bringing a marauder in the class got nerfed, and you say, well, you should know another class. But what if I don't? What if I play switch between Carnage and Annihilation, and that's my class that I know, but it got nerfed really hard? So should I just stop Nightmare rating because I don't know another class?
No, you should go learn another class.
Okay,
What's
so you're
stopping you
saying,
from learning another class?
well, no, nothing is. But what I guess what I'm trying to say to you is, if but now, okay, so now we're in the middle of a Nightmare raid, and I've been playing a Marauder for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. Now you're telling me to go play a sniper. A snipe. I know nothing about it. Nothing. So by the following week, I'm gonna bring a sniper and be able to be proficient at
Well,
DPSing
one,
that in a week.
Sniper's a really funny example because it's got this brain dead rotation if you play Virulence. It's got, I think, like 7 buttons, including entrench. So yeah, you could be perfectly comfortable if you spend some time parsing and looking up guides and reading things and watching people. Well, I guess watching people parse is also really boring. But reading some guides, go to Theory Crafting Discord and see what's been pinned for gearing. Outside of gearing, honestly, that's probably going to take the longest amount of time. Yeah, you could be within like a week or two fairly proficient to be nightmare rating if you spend enough time on a dummy. Although I
I
would
mean,
recommend you switch to a jug because you have the same gear. But yeah,
I would say it really depends on what's going on with the group, what you guys are doing. If it's regular prog and everybody's still working on mechanics, and you work on the other classes in the background, but you keep your marauder there because you already have the mechanics. The tanks, the healers, or the other DPS are still working on learning the fight. I would say keep up with the marauder until it becomes visible that the marauder is the reason that you're holding the group back with the DPS or whatever other reason. That's when you need to switch it out. Or if you want to, I mean, it's an excessive amount of resources to put in a nightmare crystal. That's why I would almost say it's better to switch classes, because it's a much better long-term solution than to pop a nightmare crystal every single night, because that thing ends up costing you, I don't know how
yeah. What is
many.
it like about 10 or 20 mil to make one if you have to buy all the
Yeah, it's like
mats?
20 mil in credits if you're able to craft it. If you're able to craft one, it's about 20 mil in credits last time I did that. That
But
was
okay,
5.0.
so so in a scenario that, okay, we're at Styrac and Scum and Villainy Nightmare. We've progged it. The whole team knows the mechanic. We're on our fourth week of getting to burn face, and we're losing by 5%. Do you pop a Nightmare Crystal? Yes or no?
No,
Fuck yeah.
no.
Okay.
4 weeks is not that long of prog time.
I mean, if you're hitting in rage timer on Styrac and you're not able to get that kill for whatever reason, because burn phase on Styrac should be doable. If you need it, then fuck yeah, pop that bitch. I mean, it's 4 weeks. It's 4 weeks. It's not that long, as Glitch says, but you're right there at 5%. What's getting it there? Why not? Why not get it then and there?
But the
You
question
put the time.
becomes, if you're 5% away, why are you 5% away? Is it because you're actually short 2k DPS overall, or is it something else?
Well, that's a question that Marcus's imaginary world can't come up
Yeah,
with.
that's something that we can't answer. Is a tank not popping his cooldowns properly, or healer is just completely out of energy on that last burn phase. DPS really can't call that last phase of Styrac a burn phase because it's pretty much a victory lap because the DPS check was everything else before that part of the fight.
Right. Well,
Um,
yes, but I guess what I'm saying is that I'm just trying to justify. Do you use it or not? Okay,
No,
so
pop
even
your
okay,
Adreno.
all right, so
Have everyone pop Adrenos, class buffs, and use a relic.
okay, and then, but then the next thing is you've been progging it for 8 weeks. The team's about to fall apart. Why not just use it, get the achievement, and moved on? I personally, Marcus, I don't care about what any other Nightmare Raider thinks of me. The
I
achievement
say
is the
use it.
same. I'm going to
If
say,
your group
yeah,
is at the risk of falling apart after 8 weeks of prog on a single boss, I don't know about that.
well, I don't know. See, Glitch, maybe your personality type is very different than mine,
So like,
but I,
so
I know
for
that I get just let me say this. I know I get frustrated. So in Revan, okay, I'll give you a perfect example. And I know this is hard mode. This is not Nightmare, but that fight is tough, right? When you're learning this fight, the mechanics are crazy and it's a tough fight to learn. So what I'm saying is we were wiping over and over and over on the first floor. We were not getting past HK for weeks. And I was just, he says something like, I don't remember something about Valkorian or Tenebrae, whatever. I'm coming for you. And it started to eat me up every time I heard it. And it was eating me up. And I'm like, fuck, I just want to beat this. And you do that week and week and week and week. Maybe it's because my personality type, like I just am like, I can't fucking do this another week without winning. And then when you say that, then you get a little more prog and that subsides. But if you're on the final Apex boss and you're at the end and you're at 5% and you're going, and it's week after week after week after week and hour after hour of clearing and wiping at 5%, everybody's hitting their relic, everybody's hitting adrenals, class buffs, everything. Everybody's doing everything they possibly can, and you're still losing by 5%. Why not hit that crystal so then the team can move on to the next stop?
hang on a minute, let me actually log in game and check on a couple of dates real quick before I say something.
Okay. Kogass, what do you think about what I said?
Oh, I would have done it. I would have done it before the 5 week. Here's the thing about the nightmare crystals is that it has such a negative stigma on it that if I say I think what ended up happening was I did a raid for a friend and I said, hey, if this doesn't work out in X amount of pools, I'm using a nightmare crystal. Zero shame about it. That motivates other players in the raid group to say, the hell we're gonna get a kill with somebody using a nightmare crystal. If somebody has no shame about using that crystal and other people do in their raid group, you will always have that one up foot edge to say, well, we cleared it because I used a nightmare crystal. Nobody wants to hear that they got that clear because of a nightmare crystal. Even if you're okay with it, your raid team might not be okay with it, and that the very strong negative stigma with it would push your teammates to actually want to become better. And that to me is just another form of leadership and pushing your team to get the kill the way that they would want to get the kill.
Okay, what if 7 people? Okay, we're back in Marcus's imaginary world. The eight people are Death Star Troopers is in Styrac. 7 of them already have the achievement. I do not, Marcus. And I'm like, and we keep wiping at
Carried.
5%. Well, carried, yeah. No, I agree. But so I've achieved nightmare level. I'm doing good at it, all that stuff, but we're dying by 5%. And I'm the only one that doesn't have the achievement. Why shouldn't I hit that crystal? Because my opinion is, what do I care about what everybody else thinks about me? And everybody else on the team already has their achievement, so they don't have to hold their head in shame.
All right, so there's a couple of
It's
things
still
that's
gonna
been said while I was
it's
looking up my achievements. It took
okay.
us
Okay.
3 months between Dreadmaster Raptus with Nightmare Power and Dreadmaster or Dread Council with Nightmare Power. 3 months of prog.
How many
So
nights
you're
each week and how many hours?
a lot.
I mean,
I
three
fucking
three
hated
nights a
half
week.
of the raid group by the time we finished Dread Palace.
Yeah, I mean, it's all depending, right?
Like,
I
I
can't tell you
think we
how many.
did 3 or 4 nights a week between
Right.
for Tyrants, 3 or 4 nights a week for Calfee. Raptors took us probably 3 nights a week, and Council was just this like terrible push because we wanted to be, server top 5, which we did good. But yeah, the Dread Council laughs at you when you wipe, and
Oh
so
yeah,
imagine doing that for 3 months.
for
And
three
so yeah,
Well,
months,
you're
four
yeah
nights a
3 months
week
of wiping on Council
for 4 hours.
for
I
two or
mean,
three
but
hours.
but but
but
can I
here's
just
the
say this? But the difference there is that was back when that op first came out,
Yeah,
right? So if you're a new
but it's
team
brand
getting
new,
into
and it
to
was
me,
a new team.
well, right, but what I'm saying is, but now there's guides and everything else, so I feel like you have a slight upper hand on that. So I feel like Prague in 2020
For
on
Prague with Nightmare,
Dread Palette.
Prague with
you have
Nightmare
a
Palace, or yeah, Prague Nightmare Palace with Nightmare buff, with the Nightmare buff. Um, we all knew what we had to do by about month 2, and it was just a matter of getting really lucky with Nightmare power plus, buffed Tyrant's blasts from nowhere, and just a lot of like a combination of good things happening all at once. Um, for us to clear it. Like it was intentionally difficult. The devs made it that way. Like 3 months of Prague is what it took. And so to say that, yeah, you take a brand new team, by the time you get to Styrak, if you kind of follow the 1 month per boss kind of rough rule of, how long it takes teams to beat things on a relatively fast basis, by the time you get to Styrak, which is, a really long, I mean, SMV is the long op, right? It's got
7 bosses.
seven bosses. Yeah, so you guys have been raiding together for at least 7 months by then, and so by the 9th month, you guys either hate each other already, or you had new people join, or those aren't mutually exclusive, I guess. But the point is, by the time you get to Styrak, you're no longer a new group, and spending 2 months to prog through the Apex boss isn't unheard of. It's fairly common. I mean, some people I raid with have been progging the Hut and Nightmare for like the last 3 years. Tithe
Did you just
prog
say?
is like, yeah, I said 3 years.
See,
Like
okay, and at
it's
that
a
point, why
difficult
not?
raid. It's
Well,
intentionally
I know.
difficult. You do it because you enjoy the challenge. Popping the Nightmare Crystal cheapens it. That's why we don't use Nightmare Crystals for a lot of things in the raiding community, I think. If we wanted something easier, we just go and do hard mode or story mode or play a different game.
I guess for me, that I look at it from, if we're almost there and you're what in use it because the game gave it to you to use. Now, if everybody has the achievement and I use it, what does everybody else care?
That they had
It
to
makes
get the
the raid
kill with
easy.
the Nightmare Crystal.
Yeah.
That it feels like their skill was somehow compromised in the fact that you had to use the crystal to get the kill.
Yeah. Why am I agreeing with this guy? I'm supposed to be opposed to him. Marcus, you did a poor job selecting us.
No, you guys have no idea. No. Like, believe it or not, now I have more information than I've ever had listening to both of you guys explain this, because you both are on the different spectrums of this. You know what I mean? One is very, I don't know, don't ever use it unless you're paying me 400 million credits and we need to carry you. And the other one's saying, if you're at 5%, hell yeah, let's use it. Let's get this clear. Peace out. It's the same achievement. I don't give a shit. Let's do this. Move on to the next
Is it
stop.
really the same achievement though? Do you really feel like you earned that thing without
I
using a
mean,
Nightmare Crystal? I mean, yeah,
the,
sure. Like it's the same
here's the
25
thing.
achievement points.
Well, I'm just going to tell you this, Glitch. For me, if that achievement ticks, okay. In baseball, in the '90s, steroids were banned, but they basically baseball told the players to use steroids to save the game. They saved baseball by using steroids. right? Now, 25 years later, they're saying, "Oh, you can't use steroids anymore because it's bad." But they saved it with it. For me, I say, who cares? Let them
Sorry, you
use it.
said baseball and I just kind of zoned out.
Oh, baseball is my jam. But what I'm saying is, I think, why not use it and get the win? I don't
Is it
care.
really a win?
So
But it
here's
is for me.
here's a
It is
scenario
for
in
me.
which
I mean, if you
I
don't want to
actually
do it
ended up
anymore, then just
using.
do something else.
I ended up using the nightmare crystals back in 5.7, 5.8. I used a couple of nightmare crystals in DPNIM. We were one of the guys I raided with. He had a job where he couldn't play SOTOR for 3 months, and then he was able to play SOTOR for 3 months. He had one of those you work like 12-hour shifts in this undisclosed location. You can't really have internet, can't do anything, but you work a lot, and then you're able to go be home for 3 months and do whatever you want to. So there was that span where he would be able to work, and then when he came back, he'd be, we'd all want to play with him because he's an awesome guy, he's a great dude, but the skill isn't there anymore. You don't have the quick reflexes.
But that's
It
on
takes him a little
him.
bit to get. Yeah,
Like
that's
I
on
rated
him,
with a
but
guy
at the
that did
same
the same
time,
thing.
right. And I was just like, you know what? That's on him. Let it be on him. And I'm just gonna be like, you know what though? If he had no shame about using the crystal. I had no shame about using the crystal. And our raid lead definitely was like, why the hell are you guys using crystals? Why are we in here if you guys are using crystals? And I'm just like, I don't care, man. I want to get this kill. I'm not wiping on this boss for hours on end. If this guy wants to use a crystal, I'm gonna use a crystal with him and we'll go with it. I mean, we even called them backpacks. Hey, you ready to use a backpack? Yeah, man, let's use a backpack. Get carried by this crystal.
See, I rated with a guy who had a similar working situation. He would be gone for 6 months and get furloughed, and then he'd be back. But even though he wouldn't play for half the year, he was still one of the top PTs in 2 point whatever, 3 point whatever. Like he was able to keep that despite being gone from the game for extended periods of time. I mean, now he plays well, so I never talk to him anymore. He's dead to me.
What a scrub.
But for when he did play Star Wars when he was back home, he was able to maintain his skill. Like it was never an issue. He, you know, was capable enough to press the 6 buttons you need to press for his AP. But
That's just the difference of the two players, right? One of them wasn't able to.
I mean,
I mean,
one of them was a
eventually
Nightmare
he'll be
Raider,
able
the other one
to.
was your friend.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just like, okay, well, what do you want to do, man? He was like, oh, I want to get this clear. I want to try to get this timed run. I laughed when he said he wanted to get the timed run when we're still wiping on Bestia. You know, can't be wiping on Bestia for timed runs. But if he wanted to do that, and we were struggling for whatever reason, bad healers, bad deeps, I was just like, man, drop the crystal. What am I worried about? Raid lead yelled, got upset. Okay, cool. Are we gonna be able to clear the boss now? Yeah, we cleared the boss. We cleared the next one. We cleared the next one. Raid time was over. Did we have a good time? Yeah. Was it better? Would I rather pop the crystal, have a good time, clear 2 or 3 more bosses, or just stay wiping at Bestia and get frustrated with everybody else? I made my choice. I was like, I'd rather get those extra kills and just have a good time.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
up to
so
you.
I think that's the general consensus that I've gotten from this conversation is that we have, Glitch, who is a true Nightmare Raider, and I'm not saying you're not, Kogas, but
Oh no, man! I'm like,
no,
no,
he's a purist.
absolutely. He is
I
true.
should replace. I'm sorry. He's a purist. So he looks at it as, if you're not good enough, you need to figure out a way to be good enough. And that's
That's
not
not
my
entirely true.
job as right.
If you're not good enough, then I will switch to something that can carry you. If I
Well,
still
that's
can't
what I
carry you, and not, the other two DPS also swapped to PTs, because let's face it, they're not balanced. If 3 of us all swap to PTs and we still can't carry you, you might want to spend some time beating up a dummy for a while.
Well, if you let me just finish my thought here. So Glitch is the purist. So my Marauder, my Magic Marauder isn't good enough. And I'm doing everything I can. I'm parsing, I'm doing everything in my power. We've been wiping and wiping, and it's because of me. It's not because of anybody else. And we're all in a star parse, because that's the one thing that I found from Death Star Troopers that teaches you something. If my team ever goes into a nightmare raid, it's going to be a requirement that you have to be in Star Parse, because I can understand where toxicity can come, and I don't want anybody to ever feel like shit if their numbers aren't on the table too. And so if me, Glitch, Kogass, and Slayer, sorry Slayer for calling you out, are all the 4 DPS, and I'm the shitty DPS. I want to know that I'm the shitty DPS by all of us being in the thing in Star Parse, because I don't want Kogass talking shit to me, telling me I need to suck less, and his DPS is 200 points higher than mine, but 2,000 away from Glitch and Slayer. So what I'm trying to say is, and then Kogass's mindset is, look at, we can do a nightmare raid. We're doing the nightmare mechanics. We're winning the fights. But now we're at one boss or the apex or one of the bosses, and we're losing. And instead of wasting weeks and weeks and weeks more of doing the same exact thing, fuck it, pop the crystal and let's win and move on. Because the achievement is still the same. There's nothing that says achievement with crystal, achievement without crystal.
All right.
It's the
Oh,
same.
I know what to write to
Selfish are
devs.
you?
I know what to write to devs. Make sure write achievement done with crystal.
Ha!
No, just don't award the achievement to the group of the crystals used. Easy solution.
This is so interesting.
But
I mean, let's put it in more into real perspective. Is that Glitch is probably the active Nightmare Raider. I haven't actively been looking for a group for Nightmare Raid since 5.8. You know, I haven't been going into night. I've done them. I know the old ones. You know, I haven't even set foot into Nightmare Gods. Didn't really interest me. The old Nightmare Raids, I'm just like, I go into them and I'm like, tired of this raid already. Like,
like
it takes
if
me
you're a
20 minutes
nightmare
to get
raider
bored.
and your group is wiping for multiple weeks, let's say a month, and it's because you know that it's your DPS that's holding them back. If
Yep.
you're an actual nightmare raider, you would actually go and work on your DPS and figure it
What
out,
if you are and
or
it's max
switch
in
to a
your max
class that you know can do
or
better.
learn a new class? So
Right.
basically, the solution is, if you really want to do this and you want to be the purist, quote unquote, to do this the right way, even though you love a marauder, in my world, it's time for you to switch to a Sork or a PT or a sniper and just learn it. Spend the next 2 weeks and say, look, I can't come this week to raid because I am focusing on learning a new
No,
class.
you show up
Or
to raid. You just bring that new class, and you also spend a lot of time, instead of running flashpoints or playing PTS swoop racing, you spend time on a dummy, and you learn that new class. I mean, none
Whatever,
of the
man. My
classes
space
right
probably
now
takes
are very
priority.
difficult. None of the classes currently for DPS are particularly difficult to learn. Shouldn't take more than like a couple of weeks to be very proficient at it. And the
and
DPS ceiling is higher for some classes than others. So if you chose wisely, within a week you could be doing at least as well as, say, your hypothetically nerfed Marauder.
Right. You just need to make sure you switch to PT.
and
Not broken.
both of you guys. So if I was on your nightmare team, as Glitch said earlier, getting carried, which is fine. Now my question is, I'm struggling with my class Marauder, right? We're going back. And both of you guys know it. Are you guys, as my nightmare teammates, because this is the way it is in hard mode, as my nightmare teammates, are you guys going to be offering to help me learn a little bit more or give suggestions? Or are you going to say, hey, look, it's not, you're in a nightmare raid. It's not my job. You need to figure this shit out because we need to win.
Well,
Depends.
you're gonna have specific questions for us, and we'll be like, well, yes, this is what you want to do. No, I'm not sure. And we'll do as Glitch said earlier, where Glitch sends you to the theory crafters and says, well, they say this over there. And I personally don't look up any rotations or anything. I go to Parsley, IO Parsley, whatever it is, to see what the top parse is doing on the dummy. And then from there, I derive the rotation
Yeah,
that
their
people are
rotations are all
doing.
listed on Parsley, so you just go and see what they do.
Exactly. So I mean that they'll go. You'll talk to that person. You'll ask that person. You know, what's the rotation? What are they doing here? Is there anything people are precasting before they start the rotation? There's a lot of people. There's I know IO Mercs had to precast their AOE attack before to proc some things right before the fight
Yeah, you
started.
proc a free max shot with that, and then you also Koto shot yourself for the 10%
Exactly.
crit buff that's getting removed, and then you wait another GCD and then you pull. For
Exactly.
every class, there's something similar, or there's 7 or 6 pieces of set bonus you swap in or out. I
And
think
those
that
are the
was
small
for
nuances that they would help you out with, Marcus, because that isn't on the parse. That isn't really anywhere. That's things that people know but don't have written down anywhere, and that's where your raid team would be like, no, this is what you should do as a merc or as a PT. This is what you need to precast before we go into a fight. So yes, it really depends. Will they sit there for hours upon hours with you on the dummy to see what your rotation is? Oof, that's a person with a lot of patience and time with you.
nah.
But for the
They would
most
just
part,
ask you to
you'll
upload a parse and go look at your parse and compare it to the top parse and see what you did different and tell you. I mean, that takes
right,
all of
and
like
then they'll
20
help you out
minutes.
with the gear and look at your gear and see what the differences are. At that point, when you're switching classes, you already know, have an in-depth idea of what stats should be at. What utilities would be one of the things that you would look at. Well, what utilities am I using? For what tactical would I be using? Those would be the small nuances that you can
How much
talk to and
alacrity do you
discuss
want to
with them.
have, or need to have, or should have?
Right.
That kind of stuff.
Well, they'll help you out with that. Now, would I say in the transition time between you going from your Marauder to your Sniper, how many days are you going to be bringing your Marauder versus when you're going to start bringing your Sniper? I'd say I probably would be a little bit more lenient than most and just say, you got like 2 weeks left of your Marauder. Make sure your Sniper's good to go. After those 2 weeks are up, I expect you to be proficient on your Sniper. Because I understand it takes time to gear up an alt. It takes time to get those augments. It takes time to get everything you
Sure.
want to before you take it into a raid.
Sure. All right. Well, thanks, guys, so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having us.